Okay, again, welcome. My name is Donna and I am one of the educators. Welcome. My name is Donna and I'm one of the educators here at Bywater Solutions, and we will be doing our 1805 Circ and Patron upgrades today. So hang in there, we'll get started in just a couple of minutes. Okay. So welcome. Again, my name is Donna and I'm one of the educators here at Bywater Solutions. Looks like we have a decent sized group today, so I'm so excited that y'all are joining me here today. And just to make sure, can someone type in the chat that you can actually hear me, please? Perfect. Yay. Okay. So welcome, everyone. So glad to have you all here today. And we are going to be covering the 1805 Patrons and Circulation upgrades. And I have with me, I believe it's Andrew, is that correct?
That is correct. Hello.
Excellent. So Andrew is going to be here too, helping manage some of the questions in the chats and things like that. So we're so excited to have you here today. If you have attended any of our webinars so far, you can probably go ahead and sleep for about the next 5 minutes as we go over all of the introductions and things like that. So to start with, when are upgrades going to be coming? So upgrades are coming in November and will continue throughout the month. So we are starting right at the beginning of November, and we're hoping to have everybody upgraded by, I believe Larry said, the Saturday after Thanksgiving. So we're going to get everyone going. We will be pushing a notice to your staff client about 2 weeks prior, between 1 and 2 weeks prior, and it'll be a big red box around it saying upgrade is scheduled for this date. It'll happen after you close, so it won't be anything that's going to be happening while your libraries are open. And as a reminder, there is that note in there that says, please make sure to clear your cache in the morning. So we do leave that notice up the following day. So for instance, if you are being upgraded on November 3rd in the evening, we will leave that notice up through November 4th. It'll come down the morning of November 5th so that everyone remembers to go ahead and clear their cache. And again, that's all you need to do. Very easy, piece of cake. So hopefully this will be fairly painless. But remember, clear your cache. A couple of important links I want to go ahead and post or share with you. So we do have our upgrade schedule, and that is something that is going to be really helpful. This is our second week of upgrades, and it has all of the helpful information in here. If you have others that you want to register for, it's still not too late. Do want to point out that we do have the upgrade notes that are available within this site, so you can go ahead and click on that and link there to see all of the upgrade notes. And then we also do have our YouTube channel where you can just see all sorts of helpful information there. So you can see that we have completed some of our webinars already, so there's a couple more coming still, so it's not too late to go ahead and jump in and join in all the fun. Now, what if you did happen to miss those? It's okay. On this site here, where the upgrade notes are, that is going to be where you can find all of this information. So I'm going to go ahead and paste that into the chat section just in case you all don't have that yet. But this is where you're going to see the recording of the webinars, and then you'll also see all of the questions and answers that we get. So these are all the questions that have been sent to us during these discussions, and we go ahead and make sure that we have them answered and have them out there for everyone to see. It also is a handy list to all of the bugs that have been included in this webinar or in this upgrade. So something really important I want to point out is that we try to cover the things that we think are going to be most important in these upgrades. So the three of us educators, Andrew, Kelly, and myself, go through all of these upgrade notes and we take a look at them. We look at all the bugs. We figure out which are the ones that y'all need to know about, what's going to change functionality, what are need additional features, and things like that. We by no means cover every single bug that has been included in these upgrades. Frankly, a lot of them are things that are only appealing to the people that are behind the scenes as far as structuring data tables and all of that sort of stuff. So if it's something that's not really going to impact your workflow, we typically don't talk about it. But please take a look through all of these upgrade notes, the entire document, and take a look and see what you think. You know, there may be things in there that are really appealing to you, but we feel that through all these webinars we've hit the most important ones in there. But as always, it's open to everyone. Take a look and see what's changed that might be impacting you. Okay, and then finally, we have our new Bywater Solutions website. So we're really excited about that, and that's where everything is hosted here. I will give you a caution that even I am finding 404 errors from time to time where the Google index has not kept up with our changes. So you might still find those, but you can always go to our website and search for that information also. So this is our homepage. The most important part, of course, is the education section. So under education, you do have a search box that you can go ahead and search for whatever you're looking for. But basically, it just lists a lot of our posts that we have added over the last, couple of years or so and farther beyond that. And this is where we'll be adding new ones too. You also have the option to go ahead and look at things by category. So we have went ahead and added some things by category that you can look at those too. So while I say education is the most important, obviously there are other things too that can be helpful. Support information, of course, is incredibly helpful. And then the about one is also really kind of neat too. And this is where you can learn a little bit more about Bywater and who we are. The most important thing, I think, here is you can actually see wonderful pictures of all of our team. And so you can learn a little bit about who everybody is, what we do. And so when you're conversing with us through tickets, you have an idea at least of who we are, what we look like. So that's kind of a fun place too with the about. So if you've ever wondered who's what, you can go ahead and take a look there and get an idea of who it is. So today you can obviously see me, but if you haven't met Andrew yet, that's Andrew. Although Andrew, you have your beard back now, don't you?
Yeah, for some reason I got my picture taken in the 3 weeks I didn't have a beard.
That's what I was thinking. It was pretty short. So if you want, just go ahead and imagine him with a beard, but you'll still have an idea of who he is as we're going through all of our webinars. So, okay, lots of exciting things that are happening in the circulation and patrons modules. I'm going to do a little bit of jumping around, so you guys are going to have to keep up with me, making sure that you're staying awake and what we're doing. So probably one of the ones that I'm most excited. Yeah, you know what, Ed? We did have a map of where everyone was, and I'm not sure what happened to that because I know Jesse had done that. So we need to find out where that disappeared to. So it's kind of neat because we are, as you all know, we all work from home, so we are literally scattered across the country from Portland, Maine to Portland, Oregon. And then I believe Jesse Zarro is the one that's most southern down in Tampa in Florida. So we are literally corner to corner almost. So yeah, we got to find out where that map is, Ed. I really liked that too. It helps with time zones when you're trying to figure out who you need to talk to when and if they're awake yet. So. Okay, hold requests. So this is a neat little function that I really like, that you can now you can mark items lost from the holds to pull list. There are a couple of caveats that I'm going to put out there right away before everyone gets too excited. It only works if you're doing holds to pull, and it only works if you are doing item level holds. So those are two huge caveats there. So if you're a library that has multiple locations, you're probably not using that holds to pull list. You're probably using holds queue instead. And a lot of libraries don't use the item level holds, they use the bib level holds. But I know that there are special libraries that do use these item level holds, and so that might be something that's definitely very helpful for them to be able to do. But basically what it is when you go into your holds to pull list, you'll be able to see that you've got a couple of options here. So typically you're going to see just a cancel hold because that is a bib level hold. But for those that are item level holds, you can see that you can not only cancel hold, but you can mark it lost and notify the patron. So that's an added notice also that you would need to update, but you do have that option now that I can go ahead and mark that item lost and automatically send a notice to the patron. I can also set up a system preference that will automatically change the status of that item to a lost value. So one click and you can go ahead and kind of do all of those things at once. So a nice little feature, but again, it is a little bit limited in scope as far as who's going to be able to use it, but that is something that's kind of a neat feature. And we're hoping, as with all of these things that we talk about in Koha, that it's a building block and they're going to keep building on it. And we've already been asking, hey, when's this going to happen for bib levels, and when is this going to happen for, you know, holds queue and things like that. So hopefully it'll get there. And again, this is a great opportunity to go ahead and shout out to everyone that if there's something that you wish was different or that you wish was available in different ways, please, please go on to Bugzilla and add your comments. Don't be scared to do it. No one yells, you know, but go ahead and get out there, get that information out there. Developers really love to hear from librarians and understand how we need to use things. So this is a really neat feature that I'm hoping is going to be continued to be developed and see where it goes. So Ed's asking if he wonders if that can be added to a custom hold to pull list. I have no idea, Ed, but I do know that you are one of the gurus when it comes to creating some of those reports. So give it a shot, you know, but I really think that this is going to be a neat feature to be able to continue to develop. I think the problem right now is that because it is for items, I'm imagining it's probably going to be a little bit difficult to get that to bib levels. I don't know how that all functionality works, but please, you know, put it out there in Bugzilla. Let the developers know what you'd really like to see, and we can go ahead and get those going.
Donna, if you're running a custom holds to pull list that is a report, you could absolutely in that report generate a link straight to the items page in that bib record that would let you mark things as lost to there. I don't think you could do that just as one button, though.
Okay.
Not sure how that would work. But still, a link out of there would be good.
Yeah, it's getting you there. It's getting you closer. So yes, and Andrew is our SQL expert.
And I think the line you want for that is already in the Koha reports library.
Very cool. So there we go. So Ed, get working on that one. So, okay, so that is the holds to pull update, which is really kind of a neat little, like I said, neat little feature that you can mark lost right from there. So this is now something that a lot of patrons have, or a lot of libraries have been asking for, which is the ability to merge patrons. As we have more and more ways for patrons to register, it is very easy to get duplicate accounts. So there's a new feature now that you can merge patron accounts. So I just went into a test database and I just browsed by P, and I can see right here I have 2 Harry Potters that I need to go ahead and merge that are accounts. This would be very useful if you allow online registration and someone may have registered because they couldn't remember their password and didn't think they were registered. This would be really helpful for students also, where you've got parents registering them through the school and they're all just also registered in the library. So lots of opportunities that you can go ahead and merge patrons together. There are a couple of careful things put into place. So like right now you can see that my merge selected patrons button is grayed out, so I can't use it. If I use this select all, it still stays grayed out. So you can't accidentally select everybody and merge them all into one account. So that's a huge help. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go ahead and choose these 2 patrons that I want to merge together. And then I'm going to go ahead and see that my button has now become active. Okay, hang on, Lisa, we're getting to that. So Lisa wants to know which patron barcode gets overwritten. You get to choose which one you want to keep. So just like merging bib records, you get to choose which one you want to be as the final record, and everything else will get merged together. So I'm going to go ahead and keep this card. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and merge the patrons. Okay. And then it goes ahead and tells me all of that information. It tells me that account lines have been transferred, checkouts have been transferred, any statistics have been transferred, holds are transferred also, which I know is a huge thing, that you don't have to manually go in there and change those holds. I can now go in there and take a look at that view patron records, and it's going to go ahead and show me all of that information now under one record. So a really neat function to be able to do that. There is not an undo button, so we just say make sure that your patrons are, or your staff are doing it the way that they need to be doing that, because you cannot undo it. So just kind of be aware of that. There is a system permission that goes along with that, or excuse me, a permissions that needs to be go along with that. Believe it or not, it's actually part of the patron lists. So if they do not have, if staff do not have the ability to work on patron lists, they will not have the ability to merge patrons. So that is one way that you would be able to manage that. So, okay. Can we look at patron records before merging? You would just want to go ahead and do that from the search screen, Martha. So, or excuse me, Marta. So what you would want to do is when you were here, browsing through your patron records or doing your search or whatever, you would go ahead and take a look at them just right from here. Well, since my other one is gone, but you would just go ahead and click on the links here to go ahead and take a look at those records before you could put those together. Okay. Okay. I'm going to hop you over to search the catalog. Like I said, I'm going to keep you on the toes. So we're moving back and forth. So this is a function that's really kind of neat. I'm going to go ahead and search for cakes. And what it does, it adds the same feature as another bug for the OPAC interface. After you've done your search, you'll be able to browse selected results, and you can pull those from multiple pages. So for instance, if I'm working with a patron and I need to go through and look at some of these books a little bit more specific, but I don't want to scroll through each one, I can go ahead and select several of these. I'm selecting 3 and 4 and number 7. And perhaps number 13. Okay, so I've just selected a few of them just from that quick look. And then what I can do is you can see I have this button up here that says Browse Selected Records. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Okay, and so now it's jumped me to that first one that I selected, and I can go ahead and scroll through just those items that I chose. So it's a really neat feature that I can go ahead and take a closer look at a few items without having to keep going back to that list or just scrolling through all those items that I don't want. So again, neat little feature. Going to be really helpful when you're doing some of these searches and you know that you don't want certain items, but you do want to take a closer look at others. Just saves you some clicks with that. What's nice too, though, is that you can also use that to add the results from several pages to a list. So you have that functionality too. So again, just saves you a couple of clicks, nothing major, but just kind of a neat feature that you're going to be able to go ahead and add items to those lists. Yes, Lisa, patrons do have this feature also. So, okay, so showed you that fun one. So you know that Koha has a self-checkout module. They've now developed a self-check-in module. Again, like I said with the holds, marking items lost from holds, it's a starting point. It's not going to work for everyone, and we recognize that, but this is a neat feature that it may be something that's helpful for your library. So there's a set of new self-check-in preferences, and then you have that extension on your URL, just like you do for your self-checkout. And you go ahead and just set this up. You log in as the staff member that has the ability to go ahead and do this. And then you just go ahead and let your patrons check in the materials. So I'm going to go ahead and check in Okay, so you can scan a couple of barcodes. And okay. The next caveat is that just because I've scanned them doesn't mean they're checked in. I do have to select that check-in button. So there will be an education part on the behalf of your customers to get them to remember to check things in. So now it tells me that those items are checked in, but there is also one item that has not been checked in, and to see library staff for assistance. It's suggested that patrons do click this finish button, but they don't necessarily have to. It'll time out after 120 seconds or whatever you've set your system preference to, but those items are now checked in. I'm waiting for the questions to come in. What about holds? What about transfers? What about et cetera, et cetera? It's not registering those just yet. So really what this would have to do is you would have to go ahead and have these items put somewhere, and then staff would need to go ahead and scan them again to trigger any holds, to trigger any transfers, those sorts of things. So again, not going to be useful for every single library, but if you are a a smaller library perhaps, this might be something that's definitely going to help you. I know that there are some special libraries where there's like 24-hour access, even though staff are not always there. So this might be something that's helpful for them. But again, it's a starting point. Jump into Bugzilla, make comments about this, and encourage this to be developed further so that we can go ahead and continue seeing these. This is going to be a really neat feature to be able to go ahead and do check-ins also. Okay. All right, back to circulation and our patrons. So in the past, when we've been doing write-offs, we haven't necessarily been able to choose how much we want to write off. We now can. So we now have the ability to go ahead and see or state exactly how much of a fine or a fee we want to go ahead and write off. So if I come over to my patron and I go to my fines tab, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just select the one item that I want to work with, okay, that currently just has $2.90 outstanding on it. I'm going to go ahead and write that off. And before, you didn't have the ability to go ahead and edit this amount here. Now I do. So I can choose to write off $2, or I can choose to write off all of it, whatever I want to do. But I do have that ability now that I can go ahead and change how much that write-off is going to be. So that's a nice little feature with that one. So another neat little feature with this is, so this patron still owes $18.65. So now we are going to go ahead and pay the rest of those. And this is something that's been asked for quite a bit, this next step. I now have a drop down for my payment type. This is an authorized value, so you can set these values to whatever you need them to be. So some libraries try to separate fines from fees. You need to be able to designate whether it was cash or credit card. This is also a great way to be able to do amnesties, such as for food drives or for read downs for juvenile patrons, things like that. So again, this is a neat little way to be able to do that, very simple, that you can go ahead and take those fines out, take the payment for them in different ways, and be able to designate through all these reports and tracking all of that sort of information what way these payments have been made. So I'm going to say that I was paid with treasure because we're all pirates at heart. I'm going to go ahead and confirm that. Okay, and now you can see that there was that payment made in treasure for $18.65. You can also see that we have the write-offs. Two other little features here. So we've always been able to go ahead and reverse a payment. We now have the opportunity to void a payment completely. And that just completely writes that out. So it's not like it's a reversal where it gives you the pluses and minuses. It just completely removes that one. So I've got two questions. Yes, so it is completely from the authorized value list, and it's under payment underscore type. is the authorized value for that one. And yes, Ed, it can be pulled through the daily cash report. It will show in that one. So yeah, you are able to go ahead and break those down by that payment. So that's why it's such a huge thing for so many patrons, or for so many libraries, to be able to break that down by that authorized payment. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and wreak havoc a little bit in the system. So I said that I went ahead and took a payment here. I'm going to go ahead and void that payment. Okay, and so now you can see that that's just been completely taken out. So nothing, it's like that payment never even happened. It does indicate that there was an entry there, but there's nothing there. Whereas here, if I reverse the payment to show you the difference, okay, you can see that there's still the numbers in those columns, and it just balances out things. So that's the difference with those sorts of things. So the difference between the write-off and the void is basically, I kind of joke about it, is like your Control Z, it's your undo button. It's like, nope, didn't mean to do that, take that out, pretend like that never happened. Where write-off is basically waiving a fine or a fee, and that is not something that you can undo. The write-off is permanent. The other payments are things that can be reversed or void. And yes, that is in the permissions. The ability to void is set in those permissions. So the other thing too that's kind of neat is we have these details buttons here now that you can take a look at those and see a little bit more information about what happened with that particular fine without having to dig through any logs or anything like that. So it tells me for this fee it was a fine $4.80. The payment was voided on both cases of those. So you can see that that was just completely wiped out. Okay. And these details buttons just keep flipping you back and forth between the payment and the details for the fee. So that void's kind of neat, but I know a lot of libraries are really excited about that payment type with the ability to go ahead and track things a lot better with that sort of thing. So, okay. Another little thing that is going to be really helpful here, if we go back over to our circulation and take a look at our holds awaiting pickup, it hasn't really changed anything in the structure of Koha. It's just one of those things that have been relabeled. So if we take a look at holds waiting, you can see how long it's been waiting. So it's now called, instead of saying available since, it's now called waiting since. So just a little change with that one, but that is a neat little feature that's been, updated. So it makes a little bit more sense as far as what that is. Okay, and probably something that y'all noticed when I took a look at that circulation page is that it's been made more pleasant. So instead of just the links, it's the buttons. It's kind of sorted a little bit more. It's spread out a little bit more. So again, just a little bit easier to kind of take a look at. So your main functions are all up here on the top, and then you still do have your offline circulation, but it is, again, very much separated so that you're able to have that broken down a little bit easier. So nothing has really changed other than the appearance. And for those of you that may be a little bit newer, don't panic. The pink does not automatically come with 1805. We color code our different versions that we're working on so we know which version we're in, because it can be really confusing when you're looking at 3 different versions of Koha and you're not sure which one you're in. So don't worry about the pink. It's not going to be pushed to your site, but if you like it, we can help you do it. So that offer is always out there. It's very easy to do through system preferences. Okay, so I'm going to go back to my patrons. And I'm going to go ahead and pull up a patron here. Okay. So right down here is a new little button, number of checkouts by item type. It's one of these little things that I absolutely love. So if you allow your patrons to check out a lot of items, sometimes they don't necessarily know how many DVDs they might have out, how many audiobooks, things like that. So for things that they have a limit on, like I can only have 3 DVDs, and I don't remember how many I have, you can look at their account very easily, and instead of counting through all 50 items that they've got checked out, you can see right here a neat little summary of the different item types that they have checked out on their account. So again, nothing earth-shattering, but just a neat little efficiency that's really going to help really going to help staff be able to tell patrons what's in there, what's happening, what do you need what do you have the ability to check out, and what don't you. Okay. Another neat little function, so when you're typically checking out to the patron and you're done with them, libraries have several different ways that they can manage that. They can go ahead and click on checkout and it gives a blank screen. You can click on circulation and it takes you out. There are some libraries that have that little X in the box that goes ahead and clears the patron information from the screen. But if you happen to be going from one patron to another, if you scan a patron barcode into this barcode, even though it's checking out to another patron, it'll go ahead and take you over to that new patron. Okay, so you can see that it was automatically changed, and it does give you an alert saying you've been automatically switched by reading the patron card during checkout. Make sure you're working with the right patron. So again, quick little thing, easy to change. It's going to alleviate some of that. If you've checked it out to the wrong patron and forgot to clear it and just kept checking things out, it'll automatically go ahead and pop over to that new patron, and it does remind you that you have done that. Now, there are some libraries who shouldn't use this. And this would be those libraries that have the same sort of barcode structure for your card numbers and your item barcodes. So there's not many libraries that do that. Most libraries have very distinct barcodes for their items and barcodes for their patrons. But if you do happen to have barcodes that are within those same ranges, you might not want to use this one because it may assume that this is a patron or an item barcode if you're using the same sorts of numbers and things like that. So just kind of be aware of that one. But again, neat little feature, should help with some of the mistakes that sometimes happen when things are really, really busy. Okay. All right, let's hop back over to course reserves. So this is something that I know not everyone uses, but I think that there probably will be more folks using it. For those of you that were not at KohaCon, McKinney Public Library, which Ed is from, they have created this amazing interface that changes course reserves to displays. And I know a lot of public libraries do a lot of displays and are always looking for a way to be able to manage those. And that functionality is going to be huge in being able to go ahead and do that. So that's a really neat feature that's going to be coming, and it does work with the course reserves underlay. So just something to kind of be aware of. So this, even though you don't use course reserves right now, you might be using some of the functionality in the not too distant future. I'm going to go ahead and take a look at this course reserve. And again, little thing, saves a lot of steps. When you're looking at your course reserves, you now have the ability to go ahead and remove a lost item from the course reserves. So you can just go ahead and pull that out. It's done. You don't have to worry about it. So again, one step, you can take the items out. Really easy to use. Okay. Holds requests. So this again is something that comes in really handy when you have patrons that bounce from library to library, and sometimes they want to pick it up someplace or they want to work somewhere else, whatever it might be. You now get a neat little message when the pickup library on your hold is not the same as where that patron typically is. So if I come into this item and I'm going to go ahead and place a hold for a patron on this, so you'll see that I'm at the South branch. I'm going to go ahead and place a hold.
Donna, we've got a question about course reserves.
Okay.
Have a second.
Okay.
Almi wants to know what's a course.
So basically what you can do with course reserves is you can set up almost like a mini reserve collection, a mini reference collection that you can go ahead and create a course and say, for instance, for English 1101, they're always going to be using things such as, Shakespeare and the dictionary and, whatever it might be. And you can put those items into a grouping that when you're done with them, you don't have to reassign all of the shelving locations and things like that. So that's the benefit to using the course reserves. But a course can be anything. I have seen some public libraries that are using them for things like literacy collections, stuff like that. So as your literacy tutors change, the materials they like to use change. And so you can use that to kind of keep those all together. So the course reserves it's used mostly in academics, where you have items that are on reserve that change from semester to semester. But you can go ahead and use that. So courses are literally classes. It's probably a different ways to be able to do that. And I also see that Ed has posted in the Q&A perfect, and he also posted it in the chat, the link for the jQuery to go ahead and use course reserves for display management. So that's a really neat feature to be able to use. Okay, so the holds. So again, this is giving me that error message that the pickup library is different, and Martin Smith's home library is the East branch, and I'm saying to pick it up at the South branch. So again, just a little reminder that may be deliberate, it may not be, but it is an easy way to be able to go ahead and get that notification that you don't miss that, that they want it at a different library. So again, little features, neat little thing to be able to do. Okay. Another, again, little thing, but something that we've been asking for a while and would definitely help in a lot of situations, is we now have the ability to have a date show on the damaged on column. So for instance, with this particular item, before we would be able to see that it was damaged, we'd be able to see when the lost on date was, but we couldn't see when the damaged on date was. So now when I look at the items, I can see the date that it was damaged on also. So it automatically adds that in there whenever you change a status. So again, little thing, but really helps. Okay. So this next item is, again, something that we have been asking for a very long time. It's one of our most common requests when we're working with libraries is the ability to see notices, to preview notices. So in this version, in 1805, there is the ability to generate previews of 3 different notice templates. I know others are being worked on, so again, get onto Bugzilla and say we need this on different ones. But right now, for the notices check in, check out, and hold slip, you can go ahead and preview those notices. So I'm going to go over to the checkout one, go into edit, and you'll notice that there's a new field, and it's data for preview. So what it's asking you is to give that template some information so it can go ahead and process this. So I'm going to go ahead and enter this barcode and then pipe the borrower number. I'm going to open up my email one, and you'll see that I now down here have this preview button. Go ahead and click on preview, and it goes ahead and gives me that information. So you can see what was in that original message that was in that box, and then you can see how it's going to render. Okay, so it's now filled in that title, and it's filled in my branch. Okay, there's also the converted versions, and you'll notice that basically the difference with this is we've moved from the hungry alligators, as I like to call them, to the template toolkit, which is something that's under development. So nothing to really worry about just yet. That'll be in the future. But for right now, we're going to go ahead and focus on the fact that we have these rendered messages now that we can see what's been happening and what those messages look like. So if you are customizing your code, if you're adding different things in there, you can go ahead and see what it's going to look like. So again, neat little feature, and that is available on check-in, check-out, and hold slip. Okay. Back to patrons. Told you we're going to keep you on your toes. Moving all over the place. So patrons, again, neat little functionality enhancements. One of the questions that we've been asked quite a lot is how can we keep track of patrons' previous card numbers? And so that's always been a challenge because it's typically been adding it in manually and having to change things and all of that sort of stuff. But now in the patrons' modification logs, you can see right here, card number replaced. This is the new card number, and this was the previous card number. So every time you go ahead and update that account, it's going to go ahead and automatically do that. And then again, typically what you're going to do is you would be in your details section. You're going to edit this library use section. I'm going to give him a new card number, and actually I'm going to give him Hugo R as his card number. I'm just going to save that. And now, when I go back into his modification log, we'll see another new entry. Card number replaced, previous card number, new card number, Hugo R. So again, neat little feature to be able to go ahead and track those without having to remember to go in there and manually update them. And we did test this out. As soon as you replace that card number, that old card number is no longer valid. So it is, it is very quickly. You don't have to worry about deactivating a card or anything like that. As soon as that card number has been replaced in the patron account, that old card number is no longer valid. Okay. So Lisa wants to know if this functionality needs to be turned on. It does not. It's automatic.
Assuming your patron modification log is turned on, which
Correct.
is probably on.
Correct, yes. Yeah, most libraries have that patron modification log on, so as long as that's on, it will go ahead and track that, yeah. Okay. Again, a couple of little things that are kind of neat here. They make some of us very happy. So in the past, in order to be able to see the borrower number, you either had to look at it up here in the URL, or if you're on the details screen, you do have it here. But there's other times when you need that borrower number and it's not readily available. Now it's going to appear here in the bottom of their brief record. So again, no matter what section you're in that you're looking at, you'll be able to go ahead and see their patron number right there. Again, their borrower number, which is used in a lot of places. That you can go ahead and have that access right there. So again, little thing, but kind of a fun one that's really helpful. Restrictions. I know from time to time, it's very rare, we have a patron that might misbehave, that we need to go ahead and put a restriction onto their account. What's nice now is that there's now a creation date when you add a restriction. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a little note there. I'm going to go ahead and expire the notice next week, add the restriction. And so now you'll not only see when that restriction expires, but you'll see when it was created. So if you happen to have restrictions that perhaps didn't have expiration dates on them, you can see how long that restriction has been in place. And so you can see right here, it now has that created date of when I created that, that restriction. So again, little things. But they kind of just make things a little bit more efficient to be able to figure those sorts of things out. Now, again, another little one. This used to say sex under the patron information. It's now changed to gender. Pretty self-explanatory. The other one that's really kind of neat is that we have the ability to go ahead and when you're in that checkout screen, you can go ahead and add those messages, just that transitory sort of message. So I'm going to go ahead and just add a, remind Hugo not to bring weapons to the library. Star Trek phasers are not allowed on property. Whatever you need that to be. Go ahead and make your message. Okay, and so we know that that always does show up when you're in that checkout screen, so that when you're dealing with your patrons, you see it right there. It has all of that information, but that used to be the only place those messages would appear. Now, when you're looking at that details page, which is the second most common site that you're typically looking at for your patrons, you'll see that those messages do appear there also. And you do have the ability to either delete or add another message from this page. So that functionality has been put not only on that checkout page, but has been carried over to the details page. So again, little things makes us happy. Some of the other things that are part of this are things that I'm not really going to demonstrate, just because I'll probably wind up locking myself out of the system. But there is now the ability to block a non-super librarian who has permission to make changes to staff permissions from making other people super librarians. So the only people that can make super librarians are super librarians. So it's something that wasn't widely known, but that is something that was in there. If you were not a super librarian, you actually could make other people super librarians. Now you can't. That's been locked down. For existing installations, the system preference has not been set for that. So you will want to make sure that you go ahead and add or update that protect super librarian privileges to make sure that it's set to stop people from creating other super librarians. So just kind of be aware of that. Okay. And Amanda is asking if there's any chance messages will become editable at some point. And Andrew's going to go ahead and take a look to see if we have an enhancement request for that one yet. So, okay, let's go ahead and search catalog. Again, another little feature that now the authorized value description will actually show for things that are lost, withdrawn, or damaged in any of those statuses. It'll actually show what that particular status is instead of just saying lost or whatever. So for instance, you can see here that I have something that's damaged. I have something that has a lost status of missing. I have something that has a lost status of claims returned. So again, little enhancement, but just makes it a little bit easier in that staff client to be able to see what exactly is wrong with that book. Why isn't it available? So it does tell you specifically what that is. Okay. And then we also have, again, a little thing on the patrons record, which I should have shown you when I was there just a minute ago. If the patron doesn't have any messages, this messages box will not show up. So just a little thing there, just trying to clean things up a little bit more. So I do want to point out that there are a whole bunch more of bugs that have been fixed. These are things that have been, asked for, that have been identified by the users, to be able to go ahead and do those. So, make sure that you're aware of any of those. We do reach out to you and let you know that if you've reported a bug and it has been updated, we will let you know that that has been in there. But again, I definitely encourage everyone to go ahead and take a look at these upgrade notes to see what all has been put in there, and make sure that we have that, all of those things that are in there, particularly if you have any unique workflows that you may have something a little bit different going on with your library. Definitely take a look at those and see what's happening. And just as a general reminder, the Bywater demo site is actually already on 1805. So if there's something in particular that you want to play with before your site gets updated or upgraded, you can hit that demo site and go ahead and take a look at that and play with things and see how those things are going to function. So this is not your only sneak peek. You do have the opportunity to go ahead and do that. Just remember that that demo site is reset very regularly. It's available to anyone who wants to use it. So there's a lot of data that can be added or removed or changed. System preferences can be changed. So just be aware of that if you've set it and walked away, someone else may get in there and change things within those next hour or two before you get back to it. So just kind of be aware of that one. So, okay. So that's everything that we have for the patrons in circulation. What other questions do you all have about these upgrades? Is there anything in particular that you're interested in or something that you want me to go over again? Okay, I see Michelle has raised her hand. We don't have the ability for you to speak, but if you would go ahead and put the question either in the chat or the Q&A, Michelle, and we can go ahead and get that question. The super librarian setting, so that is a system preference. And I'm going to just go into my system preferences, and as always, I always just search. I don't try to remember what tab all of these system preferences are in. But right here, protect super librarian privileges. And you can allow only super librarians to access or change super librarian privileges. Okay, so they still do need to have that permissions flag that lets them change staff permissions, but this one will go ahead and set it so that only super librarians can change super librarians permissions. Christina, on the, oh, okay, Michelle, no worries. System preferences, whoops. Let me leave that. I'm going to save that system preference. So system preferences are accessed under administration. So from the home section of your Koha installation, okay, go to administration. And then you have your global system preferences here that you can either click on that and take you into all of the broken down the ones that are broken down into tabs, or you can just go ahead and type in a keyword and find all of those. So. And then on the Autoswitch Patrons, Christine is asking if we're able to put in a prefix value. You don't need to. It's going to go ahead and automatically determine that when it scans that barcode. If you noticed when I went ahead and entered that other barcode, it hesitated just like another half a second because it was reading that barcode to see whether that was associated with a patron or an item, what that structure was. So it went ahead and saw that that was a patron and went ahead and made that change as opposed to checking it out. So it did hesitate just another second. So I don't know all the quote magic behind how that works, but I have a feeling that as long as you don't have the same barcodes, for items and patrons, you should be okay to be able to go ahead and do that without any other additional settings. So, okay. So Tyler is asking, the upgrade that applies a create date to damage status, does that apply to damage specifically or any status in the damage status dropdown? It's a really good question, Tyler, and it applies to anything that is in that damage status dropdown box. So all damage statuses will have that date added, just like all lost statuses have that date added. It's that same functionality. Show the new tabs on the patron side. Lisa, do you mean in the OPAC or actually when I'm looking at patron records? In the OPAC. Let me take that off. Okay, so when I look at my account, okay, so I don't know that much has changed in the OPAC side as far as those tabs go. You still have whatever functionalities you've turned on, so like we have our tags turned on, the search history, the reading history is kept, privacy options, purchase suggestions are turned on, messaging preferences are set, my lists are there, and then the discharge we have enabled in ours also, even though most libraries don't have that there. We do have those discharges available still through ours. So nothing much has really changed on that one.
Donna, I just added a routing list for you, so if you reload that page, you should see it.
Ah, okay. So that is one that did change, and that does now let the patrons...
Oh, wait, no.
There is a routing list functionality now so that patrons can see what routing lists they are on. That would be the only one that I can think of that would be added here. Yeah, so I'm trying to think of another patron that might have that.
Okay, now BWS support has a routing list.
There we go, your routing list. So that is one that is a new addition there. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to let patrons see which routing list they're on for serial titles if that's something that you've enabled. They cannot change anything. It just shows them which one it is, and then it does take them, it is a link to go ahead and get you into that bib record to see that information. So you can kind of see, you know, perhaps which ones are available most recently, things like that. So that is something that is a new tab, is that your routing lists. I can see that being used a lot in academics with professors and things like that, so they can see what routing lists that they're on. Makes it a little bit easier to be able to see those things. Okay, other questions?
Looping back quickly to Amanda's question about editing patron messages, I don't see an enhancement request already in Bugzilla for that. Amanda, if you'd like to either file an enhancement request in Bugzilla, or you could open a ticket and ask us to do that for you, we'd be happy to do so.
Okay, excellent. Well then, I'm going to say thank you so much for your attendance today here. I hope you're excited about 1805. Oh wait, one last question from Tyler. Can you please run through the search feature that allows comparison of similar items side by side? After you finish going down the results and checking the relevance ones. Oh, so for that one, when I search the catalog, okay, I'm just going to go ahead and randomly grab a couple of these real quick. So you go ahead and select the ones you want, and then just right here up at the top, you have your browse selected records. And so when you click on that, it goes ahead and basically generates a mini list that you can work off of that goes ahead and it just goes ahead and pull those. Okay. When merging patrons, will any patron details transfer to the final record, or only holds, fines, etc.? For example, if the discarded record has a phone number and the final record does not, will that phone number transfer or be lost? It will be transferred. All of that information is merged together. Yeah. And so that actually, Paul touches on something else that we discovered, that if you have duplicate entries, it will go ahead and pull both of them in. So for instance, with patron attributes, in one of the records that I tried, that we went ahead and had two different patron attributes. So like it was favorite color. One of my records said pink, one of my records said yellow. It pulled both pink and yellow together. So it goes ahead and brings all of that information in there. You don't lose anything. It just goes ahead and smushes it all into that one record. Okay. Again, this will be posted on our website once we go ahead and finish that. And I'm with you, Patricia. I can't wait for some of these new features. Again, little things, but really kind of neat things. And if this is just a small touch of it, there's a lot of really cool things in the other modules too, that if you haven't taken a look at them, you definitely want to. So you all have a wonderful day. Enjoy your afternoon wherever you may be, and hopefully we'll see you at some of the other webinars. Thanks so much.